Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Get ready for truth bombs, belly laughs, and the kind of accent that turns car into a two-syllable adventure. Here's your host, Shaun.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for being in the live chat. If you're watching on any of the other platforms and you want to join the live chat, and Phantom and Canada Heavy Hall's already in there. And so we're already international tonight because we're up in the Great White North. But if you want to join that chat, you can look for SHR Media on YouTube. You'll see the little emblem you see in the bottom right-hand corner of my live feed. Just click on that. It'll have a red circle on it. And you get into the chat with the other little elves that are in there this evening. The Christmas elves. I got a lot to talk about tonight. And I know I'm going to get to Minnesota. And you know what? I got to talk about this first because it's so obnoxious to me. I know. I'm annoyed already. And I'm annoyed because of who I'm about to talk about. Senator Alyssa Slotskins, which, by the way, I can never, ever, ever say her last name without thinking about the doctor from Spaceballs. Slotkin, what? Go back to the golf course and practice your putts. But Alyssa Slotkin put this out on X. I think it was it was today. Nope, there it is. This is not the America we want. I refuse to believe this is the new normal. When we were growing up, you could disagree and it would still be a healthy conversation. So, of course, she was. Reva's in the chat. Mission Ready Men's in the chat. Thank you for being here. She was one of the seditious six. She made the videos, if I recall. She was a former CIA agent. And she was one of the ones who made the video essentially, see what I did there? Essentially saying, hey, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You can refuse lawful orders by the president. And I wrote an article about it, and I've lost my shit about it a few times. We all know what it was. She was trying to encourage young enlisted folk, as I said before, to not follow lawful orders under the guise of these 6 senators and have your back, or politicians, I should say, Congress members. And it backfired immensely. And it backfired so bad, almost all of them are making asses of themselves, trying to walk it back, justify their comments, and then try to rewrite the meaning of it. And her comment here, when we were growing up, we could disagree. Look, I'll disagree with you and have a conversation with you, Senator, on anything, happily. When you aren't completing a seditious act, which, by the way, has some metadata in it that people are starting to talk about, that isn't really looking good for you. So yeah, if you're doing things other than encouraging the military to ignore a lawful order, then yeah, I'll have a conversation with you. You want to talk about healthcare? You want to talk about the economy? I can agree to disagree as long as you're having an intelligent conversation. But that's not what you were doing. You were conducting a psyop, and then you got mad when everybody called you out on it. And now you want to talk about how you just want to have a conversation. And now suddenly this isn't the America. This isn't the America you grew up in, and you don't even recognize it anymore. Well, you don't recognize it because you were part of a machine. You were part of the CIA. What that agency did and what people have utilized in politics that they've gained from that agency has put us here today. You wonder why we don't take you at your word that it was not malicious to make that video? Because we've seen what the Democrats have been doing for years. You guys encouraged BLM. You encouraged cities to burn down. Hell, the former presidential candidate and vice president donated to the Bill cause for that. Because you wanted to scare people into an opinion. And that's what's going on right now. That's what that video was. You trying to scare people into action. And then when it went bad for them, you were going to fundraise and hold a picture up on the Senate floor and send me money so I can fight this atrocity. You're a fucking actor pretending to be a senator. Grow the fuck up. Don't come in here and blame us because you act like an asshole and got called out for it. That's your fucking fault. That's why we don't want to talk to you. That's why we don't want to have a conversation with you. Because you're a shitbag. And you proved it time and again. And now, like a petulant child who always gets away with shit, now that you were actually being punished for it, because a lot of people are pushing back, even some on the left going, hey, this ain't fucking right. And now you're trying to play the victim? This is like leftist propaganda 101. Say something ridiculously stupid, borderline criminal, perhaps criminal. I'm not saying yes on that yet. Get called out for it and then play the victim. Everybody gets a trophy, right? I get to act on my emotions. Not always. And this time it might fucking cost you. Speaking of acting on emotions. Oh boy. Let's talk about Jazzy Crockett, who's now running for Senate in Texas. Oh God. You know, when I first saw this today, I started giggling, and then I realized like I'm almost like the guy on another ship watching the Titanic sink, except I'm giggling the whole time. And there's something to be said about me for that. This is like literally somebody should have said, as soon as she said, you know what, I'm going to run for Senate, which by the way, Colin Allred's been trying to do for years in Texas and hasn't pulled it off. And Colin Allred's well known in Texas. It's just the odds of it happening are slim to none. As soon as Jazzy said to her staff, you know, I think I'm going to run for Senate, one of them should have shouted in her face, iceberg, dead ahead. Because I get it. She's going to be out of a job when Texas finishes their redistricting. Her district's going away. She's not going to win the district it's becoming because it's actually being districted properly. And then she literally did what's all good progressive Democrats do. Oh, I'm just going to go get this job for free now. Because her last job, she went into it, and here's the difference. When she went into her current position, she ran being the polite Southern educated belle, right? That's who she ran as. And now Texas has seen who she is. And I'll tell you something right now. I don't think she's jiving with a lot of people in Texas, maybe in her district that she was in, but I don't think the rest of Texas is going to feel that way. Now, Texas is borderline purple. I will acknowledge that. But I don't think that even with some of the Democrats in Texas that she's going to jive all that well. I think Allred, who is just as progressive in a lot of ways, but was at least more stable, had a better chance. But okay, Jazzy's going for it. Let's see her big opening act. What's she doing the big kickoff with? And this is going to be filed under, if I had to watch this, you do too.
Let's get into it. Okay. She ain't never scared and she ain't never been. Who is willing to go toe to toe against the president? I can't wrap my head around someone who votes Republican. She advocate for feeding kids, they protect folks touching them. Trump invading his own country with our army, what a joke. We remember Pearl Harbor by illegally bombing boats. What y'all thought we wasn't gonna do nothing, buddy? Think again. They only trying to scare out of running cause they think she'll win. Listen, thought I told y'all we ain't never scared. Now look who name on the docket. Got 2 words for every racist bigot. Jasmine Crockett.
Hold on.
Y'all hear
the because he's lip syncing, y'all.
Me, I hope my money goes to side that isn't trying to say affordability's a hope. She stand on business, Austin toes. Texas dope, don't need no more bad built, bleach, blonde, butch bodies moving forward.
Oh, I had to hear it, and you did too. And I apologize if the sound wasn't that great, but I'll put it in the chat room. I'll put the link to it if you want to watch the whole thing. So that's how she did her big kickoff. Off to a strong start for Jazzy. That is going to be her kickoff. And now she's going to have to defend things statewide instead of just in her district that she has said like this.
Just this past week, I saw, I don't remember which celebrity, but it was actually a celebrity. And I was like, I don't know that that's not necessarily a bad idea, but I'd have to think through it a lot. One of the things that they propose is black folk not have to pay taxes for a certain amount of time, because then again, that puts money back in your pocket. But at the same time, it may not be as objectionable to some people about actually giving out dollars. But obviously then you start dealing with the different tax brackets and things like that. And that's one of the reasons that, you know, we argue the reparations make sense, because so many black folk, not only do you owe for the labor that was stolen and killed and all the other things, right? But the fact is, like, we end up being so far behind, right? And so it's like, how do you bring forth people? Exactly. And so it's like, if you do the no tax thing for people that are already, say, struggling and aren't really paying taxes in the first place, it doesn't really exactly.
They may want those checks like they got during COVID.
Exactly.
They want their checks. Of course so. Of course. Who doesn't want free money from the government? Biggie in the chat room said, DNC's putting a lot of money into her, and she has a better chance than you would like to believe, or we would like to believe. And I totally get that, Biggie. I know they're going to be dumping a lot of money into her because she's just a big name on their side now, right? But the other thing that they're going to have to square up is Colin Allred, despite me being politically not aligned with anything that he says, has at least been around trying to do this for a while. And Colin Allred, I think, actually, if he was funded properly, probably would have had a much better chance. I know they're dumping a lot of money into Jazzy. I still don't feel confident about her, because one of the things that Jazzy's going to have to actually do is open her mouth like she just did. And the more she exposes herself. Oh, he did drop out. Yes, Mission Ready Men. Colin Allred dropped out as soon as Jazzy said, and that's how you know they're dumping the money behind her. And just typical with the DNC, right? They pick the kings and queens of their parties, screw the voters, screw the supporters, right? Allred dropped out. That's already a done deal. But she's going to have to actually now try to get voters statewide, which I don't think is going to be as easy to do as she thinks. This is the problem when you live in the the bubble. And we already know that she had members in her own office that have talked about what a terrible boss she is. We've had the finances come out. We've had her own statements. I don't know if she's politically suave enough to pull it off, even with all that money. Look, Kamala was going to win, right? We were all told Kamala's going to win. Pack it up, go home. She's in. She's going to win. And they dumped how much money? $1 billion into Kamala? And it wasn't even close. I actually think if Cornyn, and I'm not a big Cornyn fair, and obviously I have issues. But if he's going to hold the seat, this is probably better news for him than Allred staying there. I mean, I really do. I think that it's just, I think it's more of a gift than a hurt. And it's great because much like Beto, I think that after she loses this, and I hope she does, I think that she kind of goes away at that point. I think that it's hard to come back from that. Other people in Texas, and I'm going to talk about this just for another minute or so. AG Ken Paxton is running for Senate against John Cornyn as well. And there was somebody else in there too, not really a name worth mentioning. Was it Beto? Was Beto running again for Senate? I don't remember. I think he did. But again, just a comedy of part. I mean, what's going on right now is the DNC is once again showing that it is just going to kowtow to the extremists in their party, which is why I think that they're look among Democrats. Democratic support's at what, 20% right now of the way the party's going. The leadership is currently kowtowing completely down to the progressive portion, and the regular Democrats don't like it. They just don't like it. They don't like, and let's face it, the Democratic Party set themselves up for a massive loss with the shutdown. And we all know, there's 100 sound bites from Jazzy from the shutdown alone. Wesley Hunt, that's right. Wesley Hunt, I believe, is running as well. Thank you, Mission Merdy Men. Cosmic Bard says the cult of personality, even when the candidate has no personality. Oh no, she has a personality. Cosmic Bard. It's just not a serious one. I swear she's not going to change anything about her. She can't go back to the sweet little Southern Belle thing. She's Robert Francis, I never used as a beta. Yeah, I agree. Mission Ready Men. So I think this is awesome that the Democrats are going to dump that much coffers, from their coffers, I should say, into Jazzy. Go ahead, waste it. Waste all that money. Because I don't think, even with all the support and the money, I don't think she's going to pull it off. I really don't. I think if either of the two biggest names right now are going to upset Cornyn, it's going to be probably Ken Paxton. Wesley Hunt, I think, has the potential. I just don't think enough people know who he is yet. I know he's popular in Texas, but I don't think he's got the notoriety yet. I really don't. So we'll see. I mean, look, I've been wrong before, but it hasn't been very often, and I don't like to talk about it when I am. But it like I said, nationally, just making sure I hit all my little talking points here. Nationally, it shows you where the Democrats are. And this is a big, big, big message, because they're going to keep doing the same shit over and over again. And it did not help them last time. Remember, $1 billion. $1 billion. Let's see. Oh, talking about Wesley Hunt. He entered the race without the RNC permission. He may have hurt his career by doing that. Yeah, he may have. We'll see how long he sticks. He may not have, though. I think Wesley Hunt's a solid dude. I think he's a good dude. I like what he says. I so far, I like what I see out of him. And I really honestly think that that's not going to hurt him long term. I think the change in the party, where the party's going, the party looking towards more youthful candidates, more youthful future, and more stalwart, if you will, conservatives, then I don't think it'll hurt him long term. I think it'll be a finger wag. He'll probably drop out and support Paxton, honestly, I believe, but that's just me looking at tea leaves right now through my years of following politics, but we shall see. All right, I'm up against break. When we come back, I'm going to get into a whole bunch of just random stories I wanted to talk about, and then I'm going to save Minnesota to the very end, because somebody sent me a story I want to talk about everything that's just going on there. What a shit show Minnesota is. Be back after this.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle the tough topics with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
There I am. I love the fact Squall White's, I'll get to show you on the screen. Squall White's over on Facebook says, I'm a lifelong Democrat and I disapprove of the privileged hood rat. Yeah, as we've said before, Jazzy's not a real hood rat. She just plays one on TV. She grew up very well off. She went to a very elite school. She's not of the streets. She sat in her ivory tower and watched people pave the streets. A couple cool stories I want to talk about. First and foremost, if you don't follow AG Hamid Dillon over at the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ on X, you should. Despite my issues with some of the things going on at the DOJ, she has been truly a light in the DOJ since she's been appointed. And they, at the direction of the president, but she's heading it up, the Civil Rights Division now is opening up a 2A section, a Second Amendment section. To which I ask, what the fuck took you so long? To the government in general, not to AG Dillon, because I've followed her for years, and actually I think she's fantastic. If you look up some of her cases that she dealt with when she was over at Dillon Law, all civil rights cases for the most part, she's done some tremendous work over there on the side of liberty and on the side of the Constitution. And this new section of the Justice Department's whole purpose is to ensure the protection of the Second Amendment among we the people. She talked about that in her announcement today, and I'm not going to play it because it's 3 minutes long, but it's not anything incredible in the sense of she doesn't put out too much more than what I just told you. But if you want to see it, you can go to shrmedia.com. I wrote an article about it. It is going to be curious to see if the government's going to end up suing itself when she goes up against the ATF. But she talks extensively about how so many states and municipalities are intentionally slowing things down or making things difficult for gun owners, and how that's their main focus to start with, is making sure that people are being able to exercise their Second Amendment right. She also notated that they're going to be looking at cases in which certain firearms are restricted where they shouldn't be. In California, that's huge because we have the approved roster, which is only guns that the government says you can have. And she kind of tipped her hand a little bit. I'm not going to speak for her that may be up for conversation. But it really makes me happy that finally somebody in government realized that the Second Amendment is a civil right. And it's something that has been beaten on. I think in the article I put $150 million a year or billion, I forget. It's a lot, a shit ton of money. 150 million is spent trying to take your Second Amendment rights away because guns are icky, ew. And yes, SCOTUS has taken up more 2A cases. Yes, there has absolutely been times where lawsuits have been won to protect Second Amendment, but a lot of those lawsuits have come from individuals. It hasn't been the DOJ slapping around municipalities saying, hey, wait a minute, what you're doing is illegal. SCOTUS only acts on things that are brought to SCOTUS. So this will be something that is proactively protecting your rights under the Constitution as it should be. So, BZ's in chat. Squall White's over in Facebook chat. Squall White, if you want to join the YouTube chat, as I said earlier, you can go to YouTube, search SHR Media. You can subscribe while you're there. That would help us out greatly. And jump in the chat and see how it's going. Mission Ready Men's first reaction is, I'm skeptical that this is going to be effective. That is because we are constantly skeptical of the government, and we're skeptical against anything that actually furthers our constitutional rights and doesn't try to take it away. I agree with you. I understand where you're coming from. Funding will be a major issue, how much money it actually goes into it. And of course, depending on who the next president is, that office could go away just as quickly as it showed up. My point is, through all of this, to actually see the light in the DOJ, somebody, and I know Bondi is not a 2A advocate. Look, I said that when he picked Bondi, my biggest issues with her were the Second Amendment. She was a supporter of red flag laws, yada, yada, yada. And I agree with all of that. But that does not mean that Harmeet Dillon is going to necessarily follow that route. If you look at all the cases she's brought in, did I just say brought in? What am I, fucking 15? If you look at all the cases that she's brought, it's always been very constitutionally sound. And it's always been on the side of the Constitution. And if you'll notice, if you followed a lot of what Harmeet Dillon's doing, she's kind of had carte blanche to kind of do what she's want. She absolutely, I think, has the direct support of the president. And I think that's well known. If you look at how she's acting, she's very vocal. She's on the forefront telling you what Civil Rights Division's doing every day. And I have a feeling that she's on the, hey, hands off list when it comes to Bondi. But we will see. Time will tell. I understand why you're a skeptic. But that's just how we are. And we've been so beaten down by government for so long that naturally everything makes us a skeptic. Another thing I want to talk about too is, remember the $2 gas price promised by President Trump? And they said, oh, that'll never happen. You can't get it under $2. This, that, and the other thing. Unless you live in a state like California, Oregon, or Washington, odds are you're most likely seeing gas under $2 or under $3. But there are some places where gas is now under $2. I saw a picture today somewhere in Texas where it was $1.96. Gas Buddy states that sub $3 price averages for gasoline, according to Gas Buddy, there are 37 states below $3, 22 states below $2.75, 5 below $2.50, 5 under 250, and then one of them, as we know, and this is just the average in the state, right? BZ said up in Idaho it's 283. Taxes here and there can go up and down and back and forth depending on state and local. Like I said, California, we get $1.50 on every gallon in state tax. $1.50. So gas is $1.50 before you even fucking pump it per gallon. But it's so nice to see. It's right before the holidays. Look, people saving money on fuel is going to be cheaper. And that is before products get to the store, while the products are in the store, and after the products leave the store. The cheaper the fuel is, the cheaper everything is going to be. And to see it trending down, and obviously, look, fuel is volatile. We know that. The price of oil is volatile. We know that. We know the drill baby drill has helped quite a bit, but it's not perfect. And look, I would love to get us totally out of OPEC. That would be wonderful. But as we were talking about with the 2A segment, always a skeptic. Let's see. Going through chat. Let's up in Vermont. Cosmic Bard says 309 here, still not California price, but still, well, yeah, and it's Vermont. So you guys, you're California light, like Massachusetts. Up in the Great White North, Canada Heavy Haul says gas has dropped up here too, but $1 a liter. That's not even a real word, liter, which roughly translates into $3.40 a gallon in freedom units. Thank you for clarifying that. All I know, the only thing that I know on how to measure a liter is cola, and a liter of cola. And if you get that joke, it's probably time for you to take your back pain medicine. Milepost 154. When I first started driving, BZ, sorry. When I first started driving, gas was 29 cents a gallon, which actually, BZ, is incredible considering the gas at that time were just plants and the dinosaurs who have died previously. But I want to know how not only did you extract it from the ground, but how did you get it into the dinosaur that you were riding, BZ? Which is incredible. Do they drink it normally? Is that how it works? Squall White over in chat. I see people crying about gas prices, and it's up over $5 here in Northern California. Yeah, and look, Squall, I'm in the Sacramento area. We're averaging about 385 right now. Without, and look, you know this, so many other people know this. California is so fucked when it comes to fuel. Because of all the state rules and laws and the green laws and all this other stuff. And we're on a closed loop system and the special blend and this, that, and the other thing. You're saying you're up in Northern California, so Redding area, north of Redding. And if you go east or west off of I-5, the price goes through the roof exponentially. I used to drive up there quite a bit for work. And yeah, that's California. That's what happens when you keep voting for the same thing over and over and over again. But it's awesome to see, especially right around the holidays. BZ, I knew that was coming. You had to know that was coming. I wasn't going to just let you go on that. But what we're starting to see by and large, and look, the fact that over the Thanksgiving holiday, the price didn't bump by that much. I think it went up by like 3 or 4 cents. It did not go up that much at all. I was ready in Sacramento to be paying $4.15, $4.25 a gallon, and it never got over $3.90 here. You know, you go to Chevron, and you see that all the time. You see people at a Chevron in downtown LA, and gas is like $7.50 a gallon, and they're like, "Oh, no, Trump didn't do shit." And it's like, well, you're at a Chevron in LA. Yeah, no, that's not going to be impacted. Go call Sacramento, call Bass, call the county. That's where all your cost is coming in. But for the rest of the world, I was out in Massachusetts, and gas was under $3 there as well. He's up in the Siskiyous. Know that area well, Squall White. I used to drive from I-5 over to Reno quite a bit when I was driving a semi. So I know that area pretty well. And I used to come through off of 97 in Oregon as well and cut across. So I know it. Beautiful area, by the way. If you haven't had a chance to visit the Siskiyous in Northern California in general, look, California politics aside, Sacramento's, it's just another city, just another area. But when you go up north, and I don't mean Tahoe North, Tahoe is beautiful. When you go up to the northern part of the state, anything up Redding and above, I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous. East to west, all the way up to the Oregon border. So you live in a beautiful place. Unfortunately, that beautiful place is very, very much run by a group of idiots. I did have a third story I wanted to talk about here. Where was that? Oh, the $12 billion into farming. Yeah, Trump announced today he's putting $12 billion emergency investment into American farming. Funds will be directed towards crop stabilization, livestock protection, and domestic supply chain security. This comes amid global volatility and fertilizer cost pressures. The package is designed to keep family farms operational and prevent foreign food dependency. Everyone freaked out when it was at Argentina. He threw money into the Argentinian beef, yada, yada, yada. And, well, what are you doing about America's farmers? Well, he just put $12 billion into it. But, you know, the other side that you have to recall is how many farmers in this country were growing corn for ethanol, and how many farmers in this country were getting paid to not grow, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot in farming that I've talked about before, and I am not educated enough to speak in depth about farming, but there's a lot of issues with farming. But to see any money positively be invested into American farming is huge. And hopefully, that $12 billion will help everything that it's supposed to do, because we have to protect the farmers. I watched, and I know this is over in the UK. If you haven't had a chance to watch Clarkson's Farm, it's on Amazon. It is fucking funny as hell. Jeremy Clarkson, you probably know him from Top Gear back in the days if you watched it, or the Grand Tour on Amazon. He is a car guy, right? He did all stories about cars, and he worked for all the big car magazines over there, and that's what he really did. He was not good with anything mechanical or with his hands, right? And he admitted to it, but if you watched him on the show, he was just terrible with it. And then after that show ended, he bought a farm because he actually was understanding how bad, much like America, British farmers were being treated. But he wanted to buy a farm to retire with, I'm guessing, but he also wanted to help expose those problems. And it goes beyond British farming, right? It goes to our farmers as well, the Canadian farmers, and just how much government constantly fucks farmers, changes rules, makes their life miserable, yada, yada, yada. And it really shows you how involved government is into farming, and it happens here in America, it happens in Canada, and how much government doesn't know shit about farming, but the green shit, the Green New Deal here, but all the green fucking scams that have been run worldwide, how much it has made their life that much more difficult. I don't want to give too much of the show away, but to watch what he struggles with, and he admits, like, look, I've been fortunate. I have money. If my farm fails, it's not going to destroy my entire life, but that's just me. And if you look at all these farmers who don't have that live season to season, crop to crop, and how volatile it is just by nature before government even gets fucking involved. And then, why do I read the chat? And then it gives you unbelievable insight. And like I said, if it's going on over there, it's going on over here. It's going on. And I know Canada Heavy Haul now works with the farming industry, even though he's still a driver. But he's got a lot of friends, and I'm sure he could tell a billion stories about how Canada's going the same way, where the farmers are just, they're up against it constantly, and they need more protection. They need more support. And they need more options. And they have to stop worrying about cow farts and all this other shit that's just making their life more difficult. After everybody made fat jokes in the chat room about how I say it, or farmers jokes, sorry, I meant cow farts, Cosmic Bard finally summed it up, said SHR will never be sponsored by Farmers Insurance. Yeah. Reaver Common Sense. Hold on. Hey, Fava, what's the name of that restaurant you like with all the goofy shit in the wall and mozzarella sticks? Put it in chat. Put it in chat. I saw one say it. Everyone's going to put it in chat. If you don't know the restaurant, you at least have to tell me in SHR chat on YouTube, or you can throw it on Facebook as well, but you have to tell me what movie that's from. The other thing I want you to do before I go to break, go to shrmedia.com. Please just check out some articles. We come back for a break. I want everyone to tell me what's different on SHR Media this week that wasn't there last week, because some things are different. So go ahead and check it out. And please like and subscribe wherever you're watching from. We're trying to meet 700. I think we're at 683 right now, trying to get over that 700 bank. Be awesome if we could do it by the end of the month. So please do that. We'll be back right after this.
Ever dream of escaping the daily grind? At Escapist Travel and Tours, we make those dreams your reality. From breathtaking adventures to cultural immersions, we offer escapes tailored just for you. Let us take you to places where every moment feels like a new chapter in your life's adventure. Visit www.escapist.travel or call us today at 1-855-885-81776. Your escape awaits.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the
Hey, do me a favor. You check out all the other SHR shows, which I'll list at the top of the hour before I end the night. But also check out our friends over at KLRN Radio, who simulcast this show, and we're very appreciative of. They have a great guy over there named Jeff. Oh, wow, which is funny because Cosmic Bard apparently doesn't like that guy named Jeff. Said he sucks, can't stand his shows. Hey, he's just a little obnoxious sometimes, really. BZ said, who's that Jeff guy? Isn't he stoned all the time? I don't know. I mean, he's just some weirdo that pops in and out. Speaking of weirdos, let's go up to our friends in Minnesota. I have to ask the question, and this is going to be rhetorical. Squall White over at Facebook says, you need to go live during the daytime so you meet some of my crazy friends. Or they just need to, take some caffeine and come hang out. It's only 8:00 at night. It's not that late. I mean, I'm going to bed at 9:15, but it's not that late. Going back to Minnesota, holy shit. Is Minnesota, and look, we know Minnesota's had its issues. We know Minnesota's had its problems. I do feel bad for a lot of I have friends in Minnesota, people who are wonderful people, conservatives, believe in this country, and they're not at all represented in the Twin Cities. One of these stories was sent to me, and I haven't listened to the entire show yet, and I am going to start with that. But Politimath, who I follow on X, also has a Substack. He did a podcast with Ann Bauer. Ann Bauer is a writer who is also up in that area, and they've been talking a lot about Minnesota. And part of what they chat rooms light me up over going to bed at 9. If you've ever paid attention to my X or shrmedia.com, you know I don't go to bed at 9. I'm usually up way later than a normal human being should be. But as she's talking about in this post, and I'll put it up here for you guys to see, and I'll read it. This is kind of the teaser for the podcast, and this was sent to me just before the show. For the last few years, I've been hearing rumors and shadows of rumors about benefit fraud in Minnesota. I was vaguely aware of the Meals for Kids scandal by simple information osmosis, but the story has really exploded and come to the forefront in the last few weeks, and I noticed that the person who is consistently surfaces information that was closer to the source was Ann Bauer. Ann and I have been wandering around X for years. I understand that in her recent writings that she felt she had to leave Minnesota, partly over the frightening reaction she's been seen in response to her efforts to make the extent of this scandal public. Such a move, while sometimes necessary, is a tragedy. And essentially what happens is Ann has been exposing a lot of the fraud. And we've all heard about the fraud in Minnesota, and so much so that I'm not going to get too far into the weeds with that tonight. But she is in fear for her own safety. And the person I was talking to who lives in Minnesota who sent me that story said, and this person who sent me this is connected and knows the inside track. Essentially, like California, conservatives and Republicans outside the Twin Cities have absolutely zero representation. The media within Twin Cities is completely orally copulating every single day the Democrats in power, and that so many stories get suppressed and don't get talked about, like you see in California media and other places as well, that it's just there's nothing that'll come to light unless one or two people actually have the stones to do it. Ann Bauer is one of those people, and now because of the risk to herself for reporting that, she is leaving. Now, there are other people who should leave the state, and not under force or fear, but just because they're absolutely garbage for it. And one of them is Mary Moriarty. Mary Moriarty is the Hennepin County attorney, the county attorney general, if you will, the county prosecutor. Everybody calls it something different. And she is a unbelievably true blue, useless leftist. And she's all, no bail, free bail. Everybody gets out. Nobody gets charged. She's a Soros style DA, right? This story's popped up all week, and I hadn't had a chance to really look into it because I got other things. I got my own problems, believe it or not, in this world. And I decided to look into this, and I was blown away. This shitbag right here, and I'm not going to say his name, mostly because I don't want the furniture to float in my house. Come on, that was funny. I don't care who you are. That's fucking funny. He, in 2017, sexually assaulted a 15-year-old girl, sexually assaulted to the extreme. That's all I can say without getting fully demonetized on YouTube. And he was sentenced to a whopping 36 months. He is a Somali immigrant. He served 0 of those 36 months. Fucking 0. 2024, he committed the same act with an adult woman who was sentenced to 14 months. Just 14 months for the same attack. And he was served 0 time whatsoever. And now, in 2025, while he was on probation for the last sexual assault, he kidnapped and assaulted yet another woman. How many times Do we have to tell a story of a offender who keeps getting passed through the system for whatever reason, allowed to just stroll on? Meanwhile, the victims get shit. The victims fucking get treated like garbage under this progressive bullshit way of criminal justice. And you have all of these judges who aren't following through with what the law is and just giving everybody a chance. And then how many times do they reoffend? How many times are we going to see it? This progressive ideology is not helping anybody whatsoever. All it's doing is saying to victims of what is the worst type of crime against a human being, and I will say worse than murder, because when you get murdered, you don't have to live with the fact that you were murdered. These poor victims have to live with this every day and have to live in fear every day, the trauma. And yes, so many of them are able to live perfect lives afterwards because they fight, they heal, they do all of these things. But that should not weigh into anything. What should weigh into it is the fact that they were violated on a level that unless you are violated on that same level, you will not understand. I will not sit here and say that I could possibly understand what it is like to be victimized that way. And when you allow it to happen to our most vulnerable, our youth, a 15-year-old girl, and you absolutely do not give maximum sentence to somebody who does that to a 15-year-old child. What have you told that child and everybody that she goes to school with, her friends who eventually find out the story? What are you showing all of them? You're showing that, hey, there's a chance that you'll be victimized and nobody will give a shit. Or if they're people with ill intent, is you can commit these crimes and you're just going to get away with it because the state will never prosecute you, because they didn't twice prosecute this less than human scumbag piece of shit. And we've seen this time and again. Look, North Carolina, there was another stabbing on the Charlotte train system. Like the Ukrainian gal that was murdered a couple months ago by a repeat offender. This latest suspect is an illegal repeat offender that was allowed to get out. And he stabbed a good Samaritan who was trying to help somebody. To all you fucking bleeding hot liberals out there, to all of you, he just needs another chance. To all of you, oh, we can't put everybody in jail. Fuck you, you can. Because like me and like other people in the chat room and like everybody, so many people throughout this country who weren't necessarily victims, but we had to care for victims after the fact. You have no idea the horror they go through. None whatsoever. And reading it in a report a week later, or 3 months later, or 6 months later, when it finally goes to trial, you are missing the fucking boat on how those victims feel and who those victims truly are, because you're reading black and white. And even when if they bring the victim in, which, and those type of cases don't happen all that often, you still don't get to see their tragedy, their victimization 20 minutes after it happens, an hour after it happens, whenever they decide to call the police or go into the hospital. Ask nurses, ask doctors, ask cops, ask anybody who's been around a victim when it just happens. And if you like, well, you know, the dress was too short and blah, 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 any excuse you make, is an insult to the fucking victims. And this is a tragedy. Especially, I mean, it's a tragedy on every level, but especially when it's a child. Because older adults do have a better understanding and maybe can, and I'm not going to speak for them, but there's a better chance of recovery for them because they're dealing with it with adult mindset and adult emotions. 15-year-olds do not have that. And that is when they are most likely to be scarred forever and have some of the hardest scars to get over. But, the poor immigrant, he didn't know any better. They just do that in their country. And, well, how many times are we going to learn? Does it take for them to learn that it's not okay? Look at Europe. Look at the UK. You look at the amount of sexual assault cases in UK. I think it's up like 600%. And I'm not exaggerating that number in the last 10 years. I think I saw Mission Ready Men bring up the Nashville case where an illegal sexually assaulted and murdered a woman. When are we going to start taking this fucking seriously? And yeah, the Trump administration is doing everything they can to get rid of some of these shitbags. Obviously, there's cases with the fraud in Minnesota that's going on that needs to be dealt with. But people like Moriarty, people like these judges, these soft on crime pussies, for lack of a better term, you were destroying society far more than you were helping society. And do I think that everybody should just slam the door and throw the key away? No, not for silly things. Maybe not for drug cases, unless they're reoffending, unless they're dealing, whatever. We can get into that whole thing. But if you don't see why maximum sentence in this sort of case specifically is not required, you don't belong on the bench. You don't just belong as a prosecutor. You don't belong as a DA, because the only thing I can extrapolate is you'll say anything to get into power and you don't care about the victims that you were supposed to serve. Well, I know there are victims who don't want them to go away forever, blah, blah, blah. Yes, you're dealing with traumatized people, but you're also not looking at society as a whole. You're not looking at the messages you send beyond that victim as well. Like I said earlier, Canada Heavy Hall says, look at us in Brampton. They're essentially no-go zones. Yeah. We talk about assimilation, and I have a video, right? 3 minutes left. This is 35 seconds.
When people criticize Somali foreigners.
This is an incredible video. I think it gives some good information. It needs to be played.
When people criticize Somali foreigners in Western countries, here are a few things to keep in mind. In Norway, 27% of Somali-born households do not rely mainly on government assistance. In Sweden, 36% of Somali-born adults are either employed or in education. In Denmark, 31% of Somali immigrants and their descendants are not on public benefits. These are just a couple things to remember during the discussion of whether or not we should let more third worlders into the United States. I hope this helps.
Now, you'll note the key word with a lot of what he said is not. I'm going to pull up these numbers. 27% of Somalis in Norway are not on government assistance. Do the math on that. That means what? 73% are? And you can keep going. And look, I've said it before. Other people have said it before. When you allow 10 million people just to stroll in, when you import countries that literally they do nothing but steal and murder 80% of their time, or they're victimized, or all they do is try to figure out how to scam their way in and out of stuff because they don't have any other form of government. They don't have any other way of life that actually shows them how to act properly. And when you import millions of them and they're all in the same area, you get the fraud case that's going on in Minnesota. Because I've told this story before, working at Social Security back in the day, I watched the cousin of the Social Security employee show up, and then I watched the Social Security employee coach the cousin what to put on the application in order to get maximum benefits, even though it was all a lie. And as I said before, when I went to the manager said, hey, the union, I ain't getting involved in this. Like, nope, sorry. And I said, oh, that's fraud. And it's like, oh, maybe. Do you want to deal with that? In other words, he told me that there's no way you're going to stop that. You think that this isn't happening by and large? Look, there are reports now that all these people that were committing the fraud in Minnesota were using name generator machines and just blindly filling out applications and taking all the money. And now the money, according to Kelly Loeffler, who's the head of the Small Business Association for all the PPP loans, the money went to the Middle East and Somalia. It's not even like it stayed here. This is something we have to look at severely and closely and scrutinize. Yes, we can have immigrants in this country, but we need to actually vet every single one of them and decide if we actually need them in this country. And in order to do that, you have to hit the brakes on all new immigration and reset the system and start again. And yeah, we're at a net loss. They're up to 2 million gone, right? That's awesome. There are more people leaving than there are coming in. The population's going down. We're getting rid of a lot of shitbags. There's progress being made. But until we get to the point that we start removing the people who don't give a shit about this country and they're just here to suck on and chew up all of the resources, send their money back out of the country and leave again, we're not going to be able to solve it. No, Shaun, that's racist and that's bad. And you're a xenophobe and Islamophobe and blah, blah, blah. No, I'm none of those things. I'm just realistic. I just live in the real world. I watch what's going on in Europe right now. I watch what's going on in Canada right now when you have unvetted, just mass immigration and the country starts to fade away. By the way, flash forward 20 years. We don't make some major changes in this country, we are going to be a third world country. The time is now. And that's not anti-anybody, but it's very much a pro-American statement. I worry about this country. I worry about my children. I worry about the people that are born here. The advantage should go to us, and we have to do something extreme in order to make that happen. Folks, that's it for me. I'm here every Monday and Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast, right here on the SHR Media Network. I'm also simulcast with our good friends over at KLRN Radio every Monday and Friday, and I think he's getting closer to a return. Reaver Common Sense, Jersey Joe, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 on the East Coast. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon on the East Coast. You have Mission Ready Men Report with my good friend Big E. And then Tuesday, Thursday nights, the bulbous one, the ancient one, the man who most kids confuse for Santa Claus, BC's Berserk Bobcat Saloon, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast, right here on the SHR Media Network. And then on Sundays, the Lost Wanderer, the Cosmic Bard himself, my friend over at KLRN, is on our YouTube at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 on the East Coast. That's going to be it for me. I will be back Wednesday evening at 8 p.m. Pacific. Please like and subscribe wherever you're watching the show from. Thank you so much for hanging out tonight. Talk to you Wednesday.